Okay, it's Thursday. Thursday is the new Friday. I'm Jay Fidell, and this is Aloha United We Stand. We're standing Aloha United because we like Aloha United Way, because they help a lot of organizations that would not exist without them.
Yes, they do.
Is the reality. And those organizations run a parallel to government as we used to know it.
Yes.
Government used to take care of the social safety net, but things have changed in the past 20, 30 years, and now there's a rich array of organizations that are nonprofit, that help, that create the social safety net. And Aloha United Way helps to fund them, so
Absolutely.
Keep that in mind. And it's our obligation to keep a community which has a safety net. We need to have that for our own moral propriety. So today's guest is Mary Scott-Lau. I said Mary Queen of Scott-Lau, and she said, I heard that before.
Yes.
She's the executive director of Women in Need. I'm going to find out more about that in just 1 second. But before we find out about that, I want to tell you that we do have Twitter. We like Twitter because Twitter is the way in the 21st century on ThinkTech that you can talk to us. You can send us messages, you can make comments, you can ask questions, you can ask Mary questions. Okay, and our Twitter handle, you want to make a note of this, is no surprise, ThinkTech HI, ThinkTech HI. So come around and ask us a question, participate, engage with us in our civic platform. Okay, so now to the real deal here.
The real deal.
Okay, so Mary, how did you get involved in charity work? How did you get involved in Women in Need?
Well, Jay, actually, it's a really unique story. I was in radio and television for 15 years.
I couldn't tell that. There's a certain magnetism there.
Well, thank you. And I actually worked right in this building.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the radio stations
yes,
here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I went to a Seroptimist meeting, and there was some young women there from the Mary Jane program. And they asked if someone could just come in and teach them how to walk and talk because people look down on them. And so I thought, gee, I can do that in my lunch hour. So I volunteered to do that, and I realized that this was my calling, and that this is something that really these women needed to build confidence. They needed help. So I started doing it and volunteering there and at the Women's Spouse Abuse Shelter, and it grew and grew and grew until finally I just started a nonprofit 20 years ago.
Wow. You started the
I started it, and I realized that there were 4 things that made up of this population, and that was domestic violence, homelessness, and substance abuse and incarceration. And these 4 things went throughout all these women, and that's what held them back from keeping going.
20 years ago.
20 years ago. Now it's evolved into something humongous.
But it's the same 4 things.
Same 4 things.
Only worse.
Only worse. It started out teaching them self-confidence and basic life skills. And now we do domestic violence classes, substance abuse treatment on Kauai and here on Oahu. We have transitional housing, and we have parenting classes.
We're going to go into each of those in detail.
Great.
Okay. But let me go to definitions for a minute so
Sure.
people understand. So you want to have these women that you want to help in the safety net, the Women in Need safety net.
Right.
Be self-sufficient, self-reliant citizens who can participate and be productive in our society and don't need a safety net. That they can do it by themselves. That's the goal, I guess. And your target group, your constituency, are the victims of these 4 things, and I want to define these 4 things. Not necessarily in the same order you repeated them, but let's talk about drugs. What's the scenario, what's the case study on how drugs will wreck a woman's life?
Well, drugs will wreck anybody's life, especially women, because they're the caregivers and they're the nurturers, and it rips them away from their children, their families. Drugs are rampant. And drugs are just something that is covering up something that's happened to them in the past, or some big problem that's happened. It's a cover-up. It's not the drug itself. The problem has to be addressed. So once they get off drugs, then they have to go back and look into their past, look into their family history, look into what traumatic things happened to them that they can now start to repair.
So otherwise they'll go back to drugs.
Otherwise they'll go right back to drugs.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm only guessing, but when you have drugs enter a woman's life, a mother's life, a family life, she becomes non-functional.
It's horrible.
But the people around 1 degree away from the family think that maybe she's still functional, and they do not intervene. So the children are in great risk because there's nobody there to intervene and save them.
Absolutely. And that's why they call upon, the schools, nonprofits such as ourselves, professionals that are trained. We have to intervene. By law, we have to intervene because our job is to protect those children.
Okay, your Women in Need
Yes.
has to intervene to protect the children.
Right. If we feel that there's something going on, like domestic violence,
Well, let's talk
substance
about
abuse.
drugs.
Yeah, drugs. Yeah,
Okay,
definitely drugs.
So how do you find out that a given family or a given mother is into drugs?
A lot of times it would be CPS being reported through CWS through the school.
What are these acronyms?
Child Welfare Service. And if a teacher suspects that a child is coming in or not coming into school, coming in late, the mother's not showing up, there's unusual behavior, they will contact CWS to check into it.
And what happens then?
They may intervene. They may take the child away, or they may find a family member where the child can go to until she can get help.
CWS would knock on the door.
They would knock on the door.
And say, hi, we'd like to just check out how things are doing with your child.
Exactly. So with us, if they're living in our homes, then they are mandatory. They have to do random drug testing.
Your homes.
Yes.
That's a new concept here. So you have homes.
We have transitional housing, yes.
Okay, what's that like? How's that work?
Well, it's primarily for homeless, but once again, they all have the same problems of incarceration, drugs, and substance abuse. And we take them from, we're referred by other agencies, they refer to us.
So CWS finds there's a problem in a given household, say drugs.
Yeah.
And they say, if you want to continue being the custodian of this child, you're going to have to live in one of these homes.
They don't have to live in one of these homes. It's better for them because it's a stable home and a structured home.
Okay.
So if they come to one of our homes and they do the...
So it's recommendation.
It's recommendation.
But, the CWS person is going to say, you
Yeah,
don't have to take my recommendation.
Right.
But if I have to come back here, we're going to separate you from the child.
Exactly.
And you won't like that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So say the mother accepts the recommendation and calls you, and she says, Mary, I'm going to take this recommendation. I'd like to get into one of these transitional homes. What happens?
Well, then we'll do an intake on her. She will come in. She will sign all of our rules and regulations. No drugs, no alcohol. As stipulated by her evaluation, she may have to go to drug treatment. We have drug treatment very close to the house on both islands.
What's drug treatment?
It's 3-day outpatient treatment, intensive outpatient. So they go for a certain amount of time, usually 60 days. And then it will drop down to aftercare or low outpatient for 2 days a week. So they still have that support.
Does drug treatment
Substance
mean-
abuse treatment, substance abuse treatment.
What do they do these days for substance abuse treatment?
Well, there's a whole curriculum by the Department of Health, ADAD, that we follow. And basically it covers social, medical needs of a substance abuse user. What happens to you medically, socially, how did you get here? So that they really get a good insight.
Psychological, social work.
Yeah.
But it's not giving them anti-drug drugs.
No.
Okay, all right.
No.
So that's the program. It's talking to them, making sure
Right.
they're on the wagon, so to
Exactly.
speak. Yeah, okay.
Accountability.
Accountability. So after the 60 days goes by, what happens? Do you follow up separately?
Yes, we do. We do
What do you
follow-ups.
do to follow
We
up?
call and we find out how they're doing. We do a 3, a 6-month, and a 1-year follow-up. Now, if they're living in our houses, once again, back to then, so that we have a treatment team. So the program manager from our houses, our program manager at our office, and myself are part of the treatment team. So we'll make sure that holistically everybody's on the right track. The child's getting the help they need because there's probably been some trauma,
Sure.
definitely.
If not physical, then psychological.
Absolutely. So, we are very well connected with the community, that we can bring a specialist in to do that with.
Specialist would be a psychologist.
Yes,
doesn't
that would work with the child one-on-one.
Yeah. Are there adequate psychologists, psychiatrists
Definitely.
in the community?
Definitely.
You have a Rolodex of people like that.
We do.
And you can call them. And who pays the bill when they do their
Usually,
therapy?
a lot of these people are on assistance from the state.
Okay.
So it's usually,
It's just treated like another patient, except the state pays the
Right.
bill. Okay, and they're going to look after the child who's been traumatized, maybe the mother who's been who needs treatment of some kind.
Right. And we're going to monitor them in the houses because we are in a structured environment, making sure that they're being a good parent and doing what they're supposed to be doing. And also we know, I'm a single mother. I know how hard it is to be a parent, let alone somebody screwed up on drugs.
Yeah.
So, it's not easy.
Yeah. So when you say the houses, now are there houses in communities like the Ronald McDonald House? I mean.
Ours are transitional houses.
What does that mean?
Well, Homeless Programs Office funds our houses for transitional, for homeless people. So that's what ours are. So we have one for families, women and children, and one just for women. So we have our YNI one is just for women, and our IA one is for women and children, and then we have one on Lihui Kauai for women and children and women.
Capacity, I mean, how big are these houses?
Well, the one on Kauai is 9 bedroom, 6 bath, beautiful.
Yeah.
And the one in IA is 8 bedroom, 3 baths. And the one in YNI is 5 bedrooms, 2 baths.
So did you have to renovate them to make them?
No, we only rent them. We rent them.
Okay, so nobody wrote you a check to buy one or gave you the house?
No, but we would like that to happen.
Yeah, I'd like it to happen too. I think if you have a house, seriously.
Yes.
If you have a house that you want to turn over to a charitable organization as a halfway house, you're doing a tremendous favor, not only for the people involved in the organization, but the community in general. And it's not just homeless, although homeless is a big part of it, it's people who need homes.
That's right, Jay.
And, there's a lot of people give their property away to
Sure.
organizations that may or may not be desperate for it. These organizations are desperate for it.
Yes, we are.
No. So it's a real mitzvah, that's a Yiddish word. It's real kindness to give your house that you're not going to use, especially when you've died.
Yeah.
in your will to women in need and other such
There you go.
organizations. We're going to take a short break so you can think about that. We'll be right back in 1 minute.
Aloha, my name is Mary Scott-Lau, and I'm the host of the Empower Hour. If you're interested in health, nutrition, fitness, here on the island of Oahu, want to learn more about places to train at or different trainers available, then watch my show on Fridays at 3. We have a great time, and I hope that you'll come join us. Much aloha. Now go get swole.
Aloha, how you doing? I'm Gordo the Tech Czar, here on ThinkTech Hawaii, where we co-host Hibachi Talk, where we talk about technology and bring in all kinds of cool guests. Also, my co-host with me today is
Andrew the security guy. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching ThinkTech Hawaii, and thanks for watching Hibachi Talk. We also have Angus.
And you there, lad? It's Angus. I bring in all kinds of wee things. Oh, look, you see my lips moving.
Bingo, we're here. I told you we'd come back. We came back. Women in Need with Mary Scott-Lau.
You couldn't resist.
So let's talk about another scenario.
Okay.
One of the 4 parts of your mission and our concern. That is domestic violence. I mean,
Okay.
How ubiquitous is domestic violence in Hawaii?
It's horrible. Domestic violence is one of the hardest things we combat, to tell you the truth. The physical domestic violence is unheard of and is very easily to spot, but the emotional domestic violence is just terrible.
I read in the paper, I mean, it seems like there's a lot in the military, but it's also not in the military, of people who actually beat their kids to death.
Yes.
And I am always astounded that there are human beings on this planet who beat their kids to death.
That makes 2 of us, Jay.
Subhuman is what it is.
Yeah, it is.
They are not, it's the worst crime imaginable.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And you see that.
We see that. We see a lot of it. We see a lot of women that are really have turned to drugs and because of domestic violence past. They have to self-medicate. They have to get through it.
Yeah, they're in pain.
They're in pain. So we work very closely with the spouse abuse shelters. We try and educate them on what it is. And the person, it's a sad but true fact, but there's people that you know very well that are in a domestic violence situation right now, but they're just covering it very well because they're ashamed.
Yeah. Well, that's a strange thing. There's a movie out called Gone Girl, where which I can't remember the name of the actor. He's very good. And it's about how the two, husband and wife, are in this kind of love-hate relationship, real love and real hate.
Yeah.
I suppose this happens. And they are, they're murderously dangerous, the two of them. And so, you really wonder whether those kinds of relationships exist. There was another one about a divorce years ago. I forget who played it. It was terrible. They killed each other.
Oh, gosh.
And I think, it actually must happen.
It
And
does
not
happen.
only limited to the lesser economic disadvantaged people.
Oh, no, not
it's
at all.
all up and down.
All up and down.
Yeah.
It crosses all boundaries.
Yeah.
But the one that really bothers me is the children, because they're innocent. And then it will happen generational. If they grow up getting abused, they will abuse their children. And it's very sad. So we try really hard to break the cycle.
Yeah, sure. So it goes down generation to
Yeah.
generation. But why is it? What kind of mechanism psychologically is that? If I'm abused, then I feel the need to abuse my children?
I don't know. There's been many studies over it, and they don't really know. It's something that they learn. It's a learned behavior, a learned pattern.
Yeah. And when you say domestic violence and abuse, you include sexual abuse.
Absolutely. There's financial, there's sexual, there's emotional, there's physical, there's all types of abuse. There's religious abuse.
Okay, I can imagine that. So, I mean, why, I suppose at some level, all marriages, all family arrangements have their rub. I mean, it's never perfect. It's never leave it to Beaver. But
it should
you
be.
cross a certain line,
Right.
and then it becomes criminal, if not dangerous. So how does this come to your attention?
Well, we get it from all angles. We'll get called from the domestic violence shelter. We'll have people call us randomly saying, that they think someone's being abused, that children are being abused, or someone's hurting them. They don't want to face it. They make it smaller than it is, and they'll tell you just a little tiny bit of it. Whatever they tell you is just the scratch at the top of the head, because it's nothing compared to what it really is. Because it's too shameful to talk about. They can't even imagine what they've gone through. They can't comprehend it.
They themselves can't imagine.
That their parent or their partner, somebody has just gone so crazy on them.
Well, we have a tweet, interesting, from Mark Ward. Biggest recovery challenges with this constituency is helping them realize that they deserve a better life. That's really an interesting question. So the first question is Mark right? Do people not realize they deserve a better life?
Absolutely.
They think they're relegated to this seventh circle life, and they're not entitled to any more.
Absolutely. They feel they deserve it. They must have done something to deserve it.
Yeah.
So, this is, I just came from the women's prison this morning. And one of the things they said in there is, I think you should start teaching confidence classes so we can become confident. Now, how do you teach somebody confidence?
I don't know.
But we're going to start.
You have to give them a good life experience.
We're going to start, yeah. We're going to start, and we're going to start teaching them how to walk and present themselves and walk in and shake hands, and we're going to start.
Yeah, first it's a physical image.
First it's a
an
physical
appearance
image,
thing,
yeah. And then it's building their self-esteem up.
Yeah.
Showing them what their strengths are, what they can do, what they can achieve, what they have to be proud of.
It's hard to do that for
It's
an
hard to
adult,
do. It's hard to do that for anybody. Well, one of the things that I think is really helpful is that people are of service, and they feel very good about themselves. If they go out there and they are of service somewhere, somehow.
Right, because they're participating in the
Right.
community. They're giving. They're somebody needs them, which is the first step of
Absolutely.
confidence. I
Right.
think somebody needs you. Anybody, somebody.
And then to surround themselves with positive people.
Yeah.
Completely positive people. And that may not necessarily be your family at this point.
Sure, and sometimes they're the last ones.
That's right.
You can't rely on them for that. Okay, so the authorities will be, or the people trained in this, will be sensitive to even the smallest peephole of a disclosure of a problem at
Yes.
home, and they will know the signals, and they will
Yes.
press further, and they will find out what's really going on.
Right.
It's so interesting how there are people talking code, and you got to pick up the code and go with that. I don't know why, but it reminds me of Proust. Proust was a 19th century French author. And he talked about remembering things, and he talked about sort of activating his memory. And
interesting.
if he could remember one little tiny thing, he could see much more. So it's the same here. One
Same
little
thing.
tiny thing, you can see much more.
Right.
Okay, so you find out. What do you do?
Well, then you very gently ask them if somebody's hurting them. Not if someone's abusing them, not what's going on at home, if somebody's hurting them. And they will usually tell you or say something.
Yeah.
So
It's
that-
like the jig is up,
Yeah,
that somebody knows.
Right.
Now, I can't really keep this a secret anymore.
right. But it has to be gently because they don't want to lose what little they think they have.
Yeah. This fabricated world.
Right, just fabricate, yes, it's fabricated
It's
world.
an image that is not accurate. It's-
And you know, with women and children, money is a big thing, financial is a big thing, and it keeps them locked into a place that they're being hurt at.
What do you mean by that?
Well, they can't afford to go out on their own. So maybe they're with a partner who's paying all the bills, and they have no access to the money.
Yeah, and they're stuck.
They're stuck.
They've been bought, and they're a prisoner of the money
Exactly.
thing, yeah. I'm sure there's plenty of that.
There's a
Because
lot of that.
Including in Hawaii, where one spouse will retain all the control of the money. There won't be any sharing. 2 accounts, one account has all the money, the other account has nothing.
That's right.
And you bet and the guy with the money is giving instructions on everything.
Right.
You know? That's very unfair.
It's very unfair. So when they come to us, we teach a whole thing on what that is, manipulation.
Yeah.
So they'll look at that and go, that was my whole life. I'm like, we're not.
But how do you beat it? How do you say to
Well,
this
first of all, by
manipulative
educating
person,
them, by
okay,
educating them.
that
to
they
show
deserve
them,
a better life?
Yeah, to show them what has been happening to them. It's like the Stockholm Syndrome.
What is that?
The Stockholm Syndrome, to my best recollection, it happened in Stockholm. 3 bank robbers walked in to rob a bank, and something went horribly wrong. So they locked everybody inside. They went on lockdown. And all the people inside, young, old, were all trapped in there for 3 days with these bank robbers. Now, during those 3 days, something happened. And they all got out unharmed, including the bank robbers, by the SWAT team. And they took them in, and one by one, they interrogated them to find out what happened. And what happened is that each and every one of them felt compassion for their bank robbers. Because 4 things had happened in there. While they were inside that bank, they were isolated. You know, they couldn't get in, they couldn't get out. They were isolated. They felt they really had nowhere to go. They felt that they had nowhere to go. There was no way out. They were completely locked in there. They were threatened. They were threatened that if you try to leave, we're going to kill you, we're going to shoot you. And then the 4th odd thing that happened is those bank robbers did some random act of kindness, like let them go to the bathroom. So those 4 things tied them in. They were completely threatened. They were completely isolated. They truly believed they had no way out. They were never going to be able to get out. And then they had some small act of kindness, which in domestic violence terms they call the honeymoon period, where you fight, and then you make up and everything's wonderful for 5 minutes and then goes
And
back.
Back to the. It's, you know what it reminds me of? The relationship of the prisoner and the guard.
Absolutely.
You know, the guard has all the power.
Right.
But if he shows the slightest kindness in its relative, then the prisoner gets to believe in him.
Right,
Even
and
likes
trust
him.
him.
Trust him. It's all manipulated. It's
All manipulated.
It's all terrible, but
So we teach this. These are the things we teach them. Now, it takes a while to sink in, Jay, believe me.
yeah.
But slowly over time, they begin to see how they've just been brainwashed.
Right. The reality,
Mm-hmm.
because they don't have the reality. And the education is incomplete, and they don't
Not always.
have friends.
No, they don't
who
have
can
friends or
tell them.
isolated. Yep.
Yeah. As you know, it's interesting. People say, Hawaii, everybody's so friendly. No, not on this level. You can't talk about this, so your friends are skin deep. Well, but we have real breaks, though. They're deep breaks. They last only a minute. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about some of our other shows. We're going to come back to Mary Scott-Lau in just a minute, talk more about women in need.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on ThinkTech Hawaii. Center Stage airs every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and of course you can check out our archives on YouTube or on ThinkTech Hawaii anytime you like. Why should you do that? Because This is an arts show that I believe is making a difference in lives. We talk with artists of various ilk. We talk with painters and writers, playwrights, novelists, poets, sculptors, dancers, you name it, directors, actors, of course. And we don't only talk about what people do, but we talk about how they do it. And my favorite part of the conversation, we talk about why they do it. And it's really common on this show to hear people say, wow, I didn't think about it that way. And it's very common to hear people afterwards who have seen the show say the same thing. And I hear all the time that people are inspired by the conversations that we have. So why don't you join us and be inspired too? That's Center Stage on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. We'll see you center stage.
We're back. I told you. Okay, we're back with Mary Scott-Lau, talking about women in need. This is really interesting, and I appreciate your, willingness to sort of break it down for me.
Sure.
The next category we should talk about, the next scenario, sort of get the flavor of the way people evolve in dire, difficult circumstances, is homelessness. And I mean, we could hardly have this discussion without talking about homelessness. So this is part of your array. This is part of what you do.
Very big deal, yes.
And it's easy to see when somebody is homeless, but how do you make contact with that person and give that person, Mark Ward's, sense of confidence? How do you bring that person in and show that you can do something and that all is not lost and there are things the community can do, will do for them? Tell us about the track of it.
Well, people are referred to us probably through Child and Family Services, through Paroling Authority, through probation, through drug court, through all the different programs on the island. We work really closely with our partners, our community partners. So they refer to us because they know that we have a structured environment for homelessness. So they know when someone's homeless. So we are able to help women and children and women. So there's a big, there's a big hole there for the mental health issues. There's not enough homes for mental health problems, for people with mental health problems, and we see a lot of that in homelessness.
Mental health. Let me
Mental
ask
health
you the
issues,
question
yes.
I always wonder about myself.
Okay.
Do they start out with mental health problems, or do they sort of, develop them while they're homeless?
I don't know the answer to that, Jay, to be honest with you, but I do know that a lot of excessive drug use, of course, can make you have mental health issues, and we see a lot of that. When people come into our homes, they're so grateful to have a nice, clean place, a place where they can bring their children, a place where they can, sleep safely at night and not worry about it. Because most of the women that we have been involved with were homeless at one point. When you're doing drugs, you lose everything. It's very hard to not be a drug addict and not be homeless.
Including personal security.
Absolutely.
They're a target.
Yep, you're a target.
Yeah. That must be hard. And I wonder, my own question is, does that put stress on your mental stability? It must.
Of course it does.
You're isolated. You have no regard for yourself, even by your own standard, any level of education, going to say, I'm a really terrific failure.
They've given up.
Yeah, they've given up. And
Yeah.
when you give up, there are secondary implications
Yeah,
to that.
they've given up. So when they come to us, they're broken. So it is our job to build them back up. And I want to thank Mark for saying bravo, because we're doing our best.
How far can you build it? Can you get them married again?
Absolutely.
Do they marry
We see it
again?
happen all the time, yes.
These young women, or are they
They're all
ages?
different ages, from 18 to 60.
Interesting. So you can recover their lives for them. Now, what role do the children play in that process? Do you ever have to separate them from the children? Do the children help their mothers recover?
Children are children. They're in recovery too. They're right along in there, even though they're not.
They need parents.
Yeah, they need parents. What we do see is a lot of adult children now, and the older women that are maybe in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, starting to reconnect with their children, because their children have totally put them out of their lives, because they're.
Oh, that must be very interesting.
It's very hard. It's very hard because they want to be a part of their children's lives. Now that they're clean and sober, now they probably have grandchildren. They want to be a part of their lives. But the child is.
The child
the adult
doesn't want any
child,
part
no,
of that.
They don't trust
But then
them.
the children may come back and try to reconnect.
Right. So
That's
we try
a very
and work
nice
with that.
thing if it happens.
It is, and that's what we pray for. When we try and help them kind of be that facilitator, give them a nice, safe place to, and then so the child can come, the adult child can come and meet us and realize that the mother's getting help, and they can call us with their concerns.
So what's your sense of it? Is the homeless increasing?
Absolutely.
And because, any thread there that helps us understand?
We are part of the coalition of homeless. We have looked into it. We have done so many things. There's so many different types of homeless. Number one is the cost of living in Hawaii is crazy. So even for a family of 4, it's terrible. They can't find any place to rent. The Section 8 waiting list is so long. In fact, I was talking to my coworker on Kauai, and all the people receiving Section 8 over there have to leave the island because they can't find any Section 8 apartments or housing yet.
So what does the government expect will happen?
I don't really know.
Huh. If you don't have enough money to pay the rent, you're homeless.
That's right.
It's that easy.
So rents need to drop. That's what they need to do.
Okay, any ideas?
Yes, I think we should call the governor and tell him to start dropping rents.
Let's talk to him now. There he is. He's right there at the other end of camera 2.
Well, I don't know if the governor can do that, but we really do need our rents to start dropping.
Yeah. It's a complex problem because we're in an island state.
Absolutely.
And there are too few owners who control too much land.
Absolutely.
For the wrong reasons. I mean, all they want is profit. And furthermore, you have owners who are REITs and the like, big capital concentrations from the mainland who can't care about this. It's not their problem. So they're not going to reduce the rents. They're going to get what they can in the market. And I mean, it's understandable, it's business, but,
right.
the net effect of it at the community level is what we are talking about.
Well,
today.
and it takes community people we need to reach out to the community. They need to help us. There's a lot of people out there who do care. A lot of people, Jay, that do care.
You mean what? Middle-class, ordinary people?
Yes,
People
yes.
you meet out in the street
Yes.
right here.
And there are some people that are rich, too, that do care.
What do
just
they
have to
do?
know.
What do they do to help?
Well, I don't know. They haven't done anything yet.
You could give your house to women in need,
Yes,
and
there you
it'll be
go.
very helpful.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see an easy solution on this. I think it's part of being in an island state where there are too few owners of too much land, where the state itself is very tight on, the biggest landowner in the state is the state.
Exactly.
They don't really make it available. There have been, wealthy eleemosynary organizations that have given from time to time and still are, but I agree with you, not enough.
Yeah.
And for the lack of those homes, affordable homes, really affordable,
Yeah.
rental properties.
Right.
We're going to get more and more of this because you didn't mention that it's not only that things are expensive here, it's that jobs are cheap.
Jobs are cheap.
Everybody's on a, what do you call it,
Hiring.
minimum wage.
Yeah, minimum wage, and they can't live on that.
Yeah. There's a move, to make minimum wage $15.
I hope it happens.
Yeah, yeah. That'll have secondary effects too.
Yes.
I mean, there was something in one of the national papers by an electrician. He says, "What do you mean you're going to give him $15? What about me? I'm I'm an electrician. I don't get much more than $15." It sort of throws things off kilter. But reality is we cannot have homeless.
We
Not in a
can't.
moral society.
No, not in a moral society at all. It's terrible.
Okay, so the homeless is actually the most threatening because there's more of them.
Right.
And because, I mean, to me, now, I don't see if you agree because you're rubbing elbows with them, because they form a large sort of group of people who are not productive.
And that's going to happen.
Yeah. And when and it will happen, they get together and become some kind of a force. It'll be a negative force.
Right.
It won't be a positive
No.
element in our community.
No, it won't.
We really can't afford to have that.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so with a little help from your friends and from the Aloha United Way,
Yes.
you perform all these services. But has it occurred to you that there are a lot of other agencies who are sworn to the same thing?
Oh, yes.
So my question to you is, why is Women in Need different from all those other agencies?
Well, I think one of the things that makes us a little bit more unique is that we're very small. There's only 14 employees. and we're on 2 different islands, so that we're very personalized. So we're really can deal really holistically with the whole problem, the whole family. We have specialists that just deal with domestic violence, just deal with homelessness, just deal with incarceration, and we can be a conduit for all of the problems, the 4 problems that they have.
You're like an extended family.
Exactly.
Yeah. But what strikes me, I think the lesson here, see if you agree, is that, yeah, you could fund a huge juggernaut of activity just like what Women in Need does. You could wrap all these agencies into that juggernaut and have a large government agency doing it all, not to say how well or badly they
Right.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
But that probably wouldn't work so well, because you need to have, I think what I hear
Yes.
you and other people saying, you need to have a diversity here. You need to have people who care. You have to maintain that at all costs.
You're
And
not gonna
government
help-
bureaucrats don't care. At least they don't care the way you do.
Yeah, and you're not going to gain their respect, and you're not going to help them if they don't feel that you really, really are genuinely out for their best well-being.
Yeah.
So they have to be able to trust you.
Yeah, and you've got to care.
Yeah.
So it's a
Gotta care.
two-way relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to continue to do this?
For the next 20 years.
Yeah. What stands in the way? What are the things that worry you about, the constituency you're dealing with, the sources of money you're getting, the social situation? What are you challenged by? What will you have to overcome?
Well, we're always challenged by the rising costs of our houses because we do rent them. So I like your idea about people giving us houses. That's a great one. We like that. We always are looking for more funding sources and more community partners to partner with us to, even if 100 people gave Women in Need $1,000 a year, that's $100,000. That would take care of a lot of our overhead. And we rely on state and federal funding, but that's always very shaky. You never know from year to year if it's going to be funded or not. And we've gone many times in the past 20 years where we've had to cut our salaries and people have worked for free for Women in Need just to keep the services going so it doesn't stop. So we're always looking for community partners to, partner with us, to help us, whether it be monetary, which of course is what we really want, or whether it be we have Locations Foundation gives us 200 backpacks every year for our homeless children. And that's just a wonderful gift, a wonderful blessing. The Rotary clubs get together and they provide sheds and stuff for us to be able to use for storage with the women. And now they're giving us 2 sewing machines, one for each house on Oahu, so that we can, teach them sewing
there's
skills.
all kinds of effect there. That's great.
Yeah, so there's so many different ways that you can reach out and be a part of, and that means you're helping another person. And if you're not here to help another person, I don't know what you're really here for.
Well, that's for your own self-esteem. You need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You need to do some kind of outreach. And that was a question I was going to ask you. So you left radio.
I did.
Which is an outreach kind of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Your mind is out there with the audience, and now you're in this. But you probably spend a fair amount of time with or thinking about your constituents, who've been through drugs and domestic violence and homelessness and incarceration, which we've only touched on. Don't you lose something in terms of your own world?
No.
Because you're dealing with people who are, maybe they're not really your brethren. They come from another place, not aside from any racial
Right.
considerations. Their education, their success in life, it's different than yours. Don't you lose something personally in the process?
Not at all. In fact, I gain.
Tell me.
Well, it's wonderful to see a person that has been shot down and beat up and just gone through a horrible life and watch them rise. And that is so wonderful.
How many of them actually rise?
We
How
have
many?
a fabulous percent.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I would say we have at least 80% will rise.
And what do you attribute that to?
I just attribute to their own self-esteem, to getting their self-esteem back. And we, in some small way, played a great part.
Yeah. If you show them, it strikes me that you don't have to show them a lot. It doesn't have to be gobs of, that you like them, and that you trust them, and that you have confidence in them. It doesn't have to be gobs, just a little bit.
Yep.
It goes so far.
Yep.
And if you can do that, it's a real, I say mitzvah. I used that word before.
Yes, you did. That's all right.
Okay, so there are people out there who, you know, are well-minded, who care about Hawaii, they care about the society, they care about being a moral community.
Yes.
And they're right behind camera one, or two. It's hard to find. Talk to them, tell them what you'd like to leave them with.
Well, I would like to leave you with, become a community partner with us. Go to our website, www.win-hawaii.org, make a pledge. Look on our website and look at our fundraiser that's coming up September 26th. It's Win for Win Las Vegas night, casino night. We are inviting you to come, be a sponsor, buy a table, be a part of the solution of the problems that Hawaii faces today.
No question about it.
Yep.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Jay.
Very nice discussion.
Thank you.
We learned a lot.
Great.
A lot.